From creating one of the most critical cell lines that have ever existed in medical history, to the development of the industry standard architecture, Black people are behind some of the most significant inventions of all time. Yet, when you're asked about Black inventors, people will often not be sure how to answer the question. In the first part of our 50 Things You Didn't Know Were Invented by Black People, I looked at the first 25 most notable inventions from Black culture. I covered Alexander Miles, who created the first automatic elevator door, Garrett Morgan, the inventor of the smoke hood, and many more. My second part covers 25 more inventions by Black people that you likely didn't know about. Sure, you'll notice that a lot of these creations have been modified significantly when taking a look at the modern world. You have to keep in mind that Black culture laid a foundation for many of the things we take for granted today. 1. The secure postbox. Postal services have played a really important role in ensuring we can get access to personal letters, statements, and other documents. However, prior to 1891, there was a consistent risk of items placed in a postbox being stolen. A Black man named Philip Downing decided to take it upon himself to add more security to this design. It led to the creation of the secure postbox, which we still see sometimes in the modern day. The design focused on using a lock at the back, where the owner of the postbox can access any items that are added. At the front, there's a small hinged opening that makes it easy to insert letters. This postbox not only added security but also provided protection against rain and snow. Philip filed 2 patents, both of which were approved in October 1891. 2. The Sanitary Belt. The maxi pad is a common sanitary product used by women today. However, they weren't always available. You can now find these items in your local supermarket thanks to an invention from a Black woman known as Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner. She was actually the very first African-American woman to successfully be granted a patent in the United States. What Mary designed was called the Sanitary Belt. It paved the way to what we have available in the sanitary section today. This was something she invented in her free time, and even though faced with a lot of racism, she still went on to patent the idea. 3. The dustpan. Even though an extremely simple tool, the dustpan is really useful when it comes to cleaning up. Every time you use the dustpan to pick up dust after brooming, or to help get debris out from underneath the carpet, you're actually using a household device that was invented by a Black person. Lloyd Ray is the inventor behind this tool. After he created the dustpan, he received a patent for it in 1897. The dustpan we know today still follows the exact same principles as the ones that Lloyd patented over 100 years ago. 4. The ice cream scoop. Another invention that's incredibly basic but surprisingly useful is the ice cream scoop. It's also one of the many tools originally invented by a Black person. Alfred L. Childs is the creator behind the very first ice cream scoop to ever be made. The inspiration for this invention came when Alfred noticed people at a hotel he worked at had a difficult time using regular tablespoons to scoop up ice cream. He wanted to create a tool that would make it easier for children to get bigger scoops of the treat. So he decided to make an invention that was entirely geared toward ice cream. The ice cream scoop that he designed was an early version, but it created the basic mold for what we continue to use in our kitchens and even at restaurants today. 5. The modern mop. Mops have been around for a very long time. In fact, there are some publications that date the use of these tools back as early as the 15th century. However, during those times, it was just a wooden pole with some rags attached to the end. It was not very hygienic and still took a lot of effort to clean the floors. Thomas W. Stewart was an African-American man who focused on creating inventions that would make the everyday lives of people better. One of his most impressive inventions was what set a foundation for the mops we use in the modern day. He didn't invent the idea of a mop, but took what was already there and made it much better. Thomas created a head that could easily screw off the wooden pole and introduced a mechanism that would allow the user to wring out water from the mop's head easily. 6. The lasting machine. Jan Matzeliger had a talent for repairing machinery since he was young, and after deciding to explore the world outside of his hometown, he found an interest in the shoemaking process. After seeing the amount of effort that goes into the work of a hand laster, he decided to create a machine that would provide similar effects. This led to the creation of the lasting machine, which eased the process of making shoes. The invention from Jan made it possible to bring shoes to the market at much more affordable rates. Many people consider Jan to be the person who allowed shows to become mainstream for the general public. 7. Folding cabinet beds. A lack of storage space is a common problem. In the 1800s, there was often little space in the bedroom. This is where Sarah E. Good comes into the picture. She founded her own furniture storage, which was located in Chicago. This came after she received a patent for her very own invention, a folding cabinet bed. The idea behind this bed was to provide a place to sleep. At the same time, it served as a desk. When you fold up the bed area, it turns into a desk with several compartments. It allowed people to have a workspace and a bed on the same piece of furniture. Sarah was granted a patent for the folding cabinet design on the 14th of July, 1885. 8. Answering machine with recordings. Valdemar Poulsen was the original inventor of the magnetic recording tech that most early answering machines used. He initially invented this technology in 1898. However, until the 1930s, these machines played back a pre-recorded message when there was no answer on a telephone. A black inventor by the name of Benjamin Thornton was the first to create an answering machine that could actually record a message from the caller. The machine not only allowed for this, but even gave the owner of the system a timestamp. This allowed owners of this answering machine to know exactly when someone phoned them and left a message. There's some controversy about when exactly Benjamin invented this version of the answering machine. While many state that it was in 1935, there are records that show he filed a patent for the system in 1930. 9. Improved heat transfer technology. Ventilation, air conditioning, and heat transfer tech were already available by the time David Crosthwaite was born in 1898. However, there were flaws in the systems that large buildings used at the time. After graduating with a master's in engineering, David went on to improve the existing heat transfer technology that was available. One of his main aims was to improve heaters that were supposed to heat up large buildings. Once he invented better heat transfer tech, David went on to create improvements to boilers. He was also able to invent a new way to implement a thermostat control on these devices. 10. Bread baking machine. There's nothing better than waking up to the smell of some homemade bread. While we do have ovens that can do the job, bread-making machines are so much more convenient. They were first invented in the 1800s by, you guessed it, a black man. Joseph Lee started with a kneading machine, which he filed a patent for in 1894. He also invented products that focused on the bread baking process, as well as making breadcrumbs. The inventions from Joseph revolutionized the industry, as it was something that businesses could use to bake uniform bread at a faster rate and with less manual labor. He did decide to sell some of his patents to other companies, which is how the tech began to become popular at a global level. 11. Electrical resistors for pacemakers. The development of pacemakers marked an important time in medical history. What you may not know is that they were made possible by a black inventor in the United States. Born in 1920, Otis Frank Boykin created a series of electrical resistors. The tech that Otis created went on to help a number of industries improve on what they were able to offer at the time. His electrical resistors were used in the development of missile guidance systems. There were also several use cases in computing. However, many would agree that one of the most important kinds of resistors that Otis developed was the one used to create pacemakers. 12. Cotton cutter. While cotton farming has come a long way since ancient times, there were several manual tasks that led to a decrease in productivity among these forms. One of these tasks involved cutting the cotton after the harvesting process. George Murray was the black inventor behind the cotton cutter, a mechanical device that eased the process and reduced the amount of human labor involved in cotton processing. Until he was 13, George was enslaved. However, he was able to enroll at a university and claim his freedom. Apart from inventing the cotton cutter, George was also a farmer and a United States congressman later in his lifetime. 13. Ventilated shoes. In the early 1800s, shoes were already available to a large portion of the public. However, there was an important issue with the shoes that people could buy. They often caused blisters, which could be painful, and even led to an infection in many cases. Henry Faulkner was the first person to design a shoe that provided ventilation. His ventilated shoes focused on reducing the risk of forming blisters while people went about their daily lives. This black inventor was able to receive his patent for the ventilated shoe in April 1890. The design that Henry presented became very popular and laid an important foundation for many of the shoes we buy in the modern day. 14. Portable pencil sharpener. The convenience that pencils offer only lasts for so long until they don't write or sketch properly. Once a pencil becomes blunt, it needs to be sharpened. Prior to 1897, however, pencil sharpeners were not mobile. They were installed in a specific location. John Lee Love changed this with his invention of a portable pencil sharpener. He named the product the Love Pencil Sharpener and received a patent for the design in 1897. While it is known that he was born in 1889 and died in 1931, not much is known about his early life. In fact, there is controversy about his life in general, apart from the fact that he invented the portable pencil sharpener. 15. Self-replenishing hand stamp. The hand stamp was an important invention that became popular in banks, shops, and several other institutions. However, there was one major problem that people often faced with these stamps. That was the fact that they had to manually refill these stamps frequently. William B. Purvis, an African-American inventor, decided to solve this problem. This led to the invention of the self-replenishing hand stamp. It was actually the very first patent that William filed in the United States. It was granted to him in February 1883. This invention made the use of hand stamps much more convenient, as now there was no need to constantly push the stamp into a block of ink to continue using it. 16. Closed conduit electric railway system. William B. Purvis wasn't just known for his invention of the self-replenishing hand stamp. He went on to develop many other things, including the closed conduit electric railway system. One of the most important elements of this invention was to make the process of using railways safer for everyone. The electric railway system that William designed used a series of iron cables that touched a brass strip on the train. Following this invention, William created the Union Electric Construction Company, thanks to several investors who were interested in the railway system that he created. The first installation of the system was done in New Jersey. 17. The tricycle. Bikes play an important role in transportation. They're an affordable alternative to cars, and before the engine was invented, gave people a way to commute without having to walk. The classic bicycle posed hazards to young children who wanted to learn how to ride. There were also limitations to what these devices were able to offer in earlier days. In the 1800s, one black inventor, Matthew A. Cherry, found himself interested in the velocipede. He had an aim of making transportation easier and started out by improving the existing design of the velocipede. However, this wasn't the legacy that Matthew left behind. Instead, after he worked on the velocipede, he invented the tricycle. This is a design that we often still see in the modern day, especially when looking at a child's first bike. 18. The egg beater. The modern-day electric mixer is a very convenient invention, but it all started out as an egg beater. This is yet another invention that comes from a black man, Willis Johnson. Something to keep in mind is that Willis didn't completely invent the very first kind of egg beater. There was one in existence at the time when Willis started with his inventions. However, many still call him the inventor due to the many improvements he made to the design of this household device. Willis created a design that had a handle, which you would crank. The handle attaches to a gear, which turns whisk wires at the bottom of the tool. 19. Open heart surgery. Black people have had a big impact on the medical industry. If you watched my previous video, you'd remember that people in our culture developed things like laser surgery to treat cataracts quickly. However, you might not know that it was an African-American man who performed the very first successful open heart surgery. This invention is attributed to Daniel Hale Williams, born in 1856. His ability to perform heart surgery, which was highly successful, changed the medical industry. By 1913, Daniel became part of the American College of Surgeons. At this time, he was the very first black person to reach a charter member status of this association. 20. Steam engine lubrication systems. The steam engine was a major advancement in engineering and had a significant impact on the transportation industry. However, as with many other inventions of the time, there were limitations that manufacturers faced with the steam engine. One such issue was with the lubrication of important parts. Elijah McCoy, a black engineer, was the person to solve this problem. Elijah created an automatic lubrication system that could be applied to steam engines, solving this important problem and making them more efficient in the process. Elijah's career didn't start out as an engineer, though. When he began, he was an oiler and a fireman working at the Michigan Central Railroad. 21. Variation of the printing press. William A. Lavalette was a black inventor who made several improvements to the printing press. During the 1800s, the printing press was incredibly important in the media industry, allowing newspapers to go out on a regular basis. This is how news and stories made their way into the homes of people in the United States. While there isn't a lot of documented data regarding William A. Lavalette, we do know that, apart from improving the existing printing press, he also invented a variation to the device. This variation provided media corporations with a faster, more efficient way to print. 22. Fire extinguishing system. A black man is also behind many of the modern fire extinguishing system designs that we see today. The man I'm referring to is Thomas J. Marshall. Sure, he didn't invent the very first fire extinguisher, but instead decided to create a system based on what was already available. The sprinkler system that Thomas created helped to improve the way firefighters were able to put out fires. It significantly enhanced the overall safety of firefighters and helped to ensure they could get fires under control at a faster rate. Apart from offering greater coverage, the invention from Thomas also ensured firefighters were able to activate the tool with greater ease. 23. The gamma electric cell. If you've heard the name Henry T. Sampson before, you might have seen he invented the cell phone. That's not entirely true, even though some reports claim so. However, Henry did play a major role in ensuring these mobile phones could become a reality. This is because he invented what is known as the gamma electric cell. The gamma electric cell essentially uses radiation to create high voltage. This technology made it possible for cellular devices to connect to each other. Thus, while not actually the inventor of the first mobile phones, Henry did create the tech that we still rely on whenever we make a phone call or connect to the World Wide Web, even though it has been improved over the years. 24. The urinalysis machine. A urine sample can help laboratories and doctors draw conclusions about whether a person has an infection or even detect certain diseases. As you've seen in my two-part series, there are several ways that Black inventors improved the medical industry. This includes the invention of the urinalysis machine. The inventor behind this machine is Dewey S.C. Sanderson. Following the development of this machine, Dewey filed his patent in 1967, but it was only granted in 1970. 25. Computerized blood pressure devices. The last invention that I want to mention is also in the medical industry, created by Michael Crosland. By the time he filed his patent, blood pressure monitors had already been developed. The issue, however, was that they took manual labor to work and often involved doctors guessing the accuracy of the results. By creating a computerized blood pressure monitor device, Michael improved the way doctors were able to get accurate measurements for patients. With faster, more efficient, and highly accurate results, doctors were able to detect problems like hypotension and hypertension in patients with greater ease. The inventions that I talked about in this two-part series were all originally created by Black people. Some were more direct inventions than others, as there are cases where Black culture laid a foundation, but it's still important that we don't forget to credit our own kind for the things we take for granted in the modern day. Be sure to give the first part a view if you haven't already. You're sure to learn more about your own culture by taking a look at these inventions. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe. That way, you'll always be kept up to date with the latest Black culture content.